Hello, this is Heather Hoffman. I'm here today with a Slimline card using the May 2021 Kit of the Month from Unity Stamp Company. I loved that fence image and I thought it would just be kind of fun to use on a Slimline design card. So I kind of just planned where it was going to fit on there. This is a panel of 4x9 cardstock. And I'm starting off with some distress inks to kind of build my scene a little bit. My first color there is antique linen, and I'm just going to blend it along the bottom. This is going to be kind of the sandy edge at the bottom of my panel. And then once I have that on, I'm just going to clean my desk up a little, then spin it around and do the blue at the top, which is kind of the sky and the ocean, kind of all blended together. I started off there with Stormy Sky. It's just a great gray blue kind of soft color. I'm going to skip ahead a little because this part took the longest to get that whole area blended. And you can see I'm not going all the way into that antique linen, just kind of close to touching, leaving a little bit of a gap in between. Then I'm going to come along the top just to add a little more depth and color. I added some faded jeans along that top edge. You can see I'm still leaving some of that softer blue showing. And then at the very top, I grabbed chipped sapphire just to add a little more deep color at the top. Distress oxides blend so smooth that you don't really get any distinct lines, but you get that color blend. All right, now for that little transition area, I grabbed some picket fence distress paint, any white acrylic paint. In fact, some might even work better than this. It might be a little more opaque, but I'm just using a little bit of a brush and I'm just kind of dabbing it on. I'm not trying to brush it smoothly. I'm just kind of just getting some paint on the brush and then just kind of stippling it down on that area. I kind of want to add a little bit of the effect of like the spray from the ocean and the water and a little definition between those two. All right, I set that paint aside to dry. It needs to dry nice and thoroughly because I'm going to stamp over the top of that. In the meantime, I'm going to go ahead and stamp my sentiment. This is also from that same kit. I went ahead and used my Misty to stamp it with clear embossing ink. I'm going to sprinkle white embossing powder and heat set that and then trim that down to go on my card. I like sentiments on black cardstock. I use that quite a lot just because I love how crisp it is. I'm going to trim that down now that I've got that stamped and embossed into a thin strip, and then I can just use my scissors to cut it apart. I didn't quite cut every single word apart. I left those last two together just because they were both shorter words and it felt like the size kind of matched up a bit better. But you can kind of see I just wanted to cut them apart so I could angle them together like that on my card front. All right, that panel now is all the way dry. This is where I learned a little bit later something. I'm stamping this with my Misty. I ended up using VersaFine Onyx black ink. I would suggest using maybe even a StazOn ink because I kind of discovered where that white paint was didn't really absorb the ink super well. So a little later in my process, I smudged it a little bit. It just takes a really, really, really long time to dry. I even tried to heat set it a little bit and it was still kind of prone to smudging. So if you want that to really be color fast and not have to worry about smudging it, I would highly recommend probably using like a StazOn ink, something that you know on that glossy paint surface will still hold in place. All right, so I've got those stamped and I went ahead and put foam adhesive on the back of each of those pieces. And then to the foam adhesive, I'm adding a tiny little bit of liquid glue as well. I'm doing this for two reasons. It's going to give me a little more time to move them around while I place each of those pieces on my card front. And it's also going to just help hold it even a little more sturdy once it dries. I started off using my tweezers to pick them up and then I finally just decided, no, it's just easier to pick them up with my fingers and pop them into place. But yeah, having that liquid glue on there really helped so I could kind of slip them around a little and move them before they fully dried and adhered. But I still got that dimension from the foam adhesive on there as well. All right, now that I've got this all done, you can kind of see where I smudged the fence there. I went ahead and trimmed this down. I mentioned it was a 4x9 panel, and I'm going to end up creating my card base to be 4x9. So I wanted it to be just ever so slightly smaller, so I'd have a little bit of a white border around it when I stuck it onto my card. All right, and there's that white card base that I'm going to adhere it on. I was trying to be careful not to smudge the fence images, so I put my adhesive tape onto my card base and then just carefully adhered it on. And once I finished there, I just decided, you know how great jewels are for hiding mistakes? It just kind of seemed like a good time to add those on. Covered that little smear on the fence and added a little tiny bit of sparkle on here as well. And there you go. This card is finished. Clean, simple, and fun. Kind of a fun background technique. Thanks so much for coming by today. Have a wonderful day.